Alright guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice video and podcast. We've got some more MCU news. This isn't really into anything in particular. This is just more news for the future for the MCU. Like post Secret Wars. So quite a few years out in the future. And I think this is some pretty cool news. In general, Kevin Feige, the head producer of Marvel Studios, right? Had a big interview, and a lot of stuff came from it. A lot of stuff. We're going to cover a lot of it on the podcast with like different pieces, but this one I wanted to put on the video because this one I thought was the most interesting. So we'll get right into it. This is off of the Variety by Adam B. Very. It's titled "Marvel Plans to Recast the X-Men and Eventually Tony Stark After Avengers Secret Wars, but reboot is a scary word," says Kevin Feige. So, right to the article. The all-new X-Men are coming to Marvel's cinematic universe, and an all-new Tony Stark will eventually join them. In a wide-ranging conversation with press on Friday, Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige confirmed that following the events of 2027's Avengers Secret Wars, the company will recast the superpowered mutants for its upcoming X-Men movie, directed by Jake Schreier. He did the Thunderbolts, for those who are not aware. Many of the actors who starred in the X-Men movies of the 2000s and 2010s are reprising their roles in 2026's Avengers Doomsday, including Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romijn, James Marsden, and Kelsey Grammer. Stewart also played Charles Xavier in 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Grammer appeared as Hank McCoy in the post-credit scene in 2023's The Marvels. In future films, however, X-Men characters who appeared in previous movies will be played by new actors, along with mutants making their big screen debut. The decision echoes changes in composition of Marvel's comics following the 2015 Secret Wars, which involved multiple timelines collapsing and reconverging, mixing up characters of the main Marvel timeline in the process. We're utilizing that story not just to round out the stories we've been telling post-Endgame, just as importantly, and you can look at that Secret Wars comics for where that takes you. It's very, very much sets up the future, Feige said. Endgame literally was about endings, Secret Wars is about the beginnings. But Feige was also careful not to characterize the changes as a reboot. Instead, the executive said Secret Wars will serve as a reset for the MCU. Reboot is a scary word, he said. Reboot can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Reset, singular timeline. We're thinking along those lines. Later, he added, X-Men is where that will happen next. Feige noted that the X-Men comics, with their focus on Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, naturally centered on stories about adolescent characters. They have been a place to tell stories about young people who feel different and who feel other and who feel like they don't belong, he said. That's the universal story of mutants, and that is where we're going. Even more intriguingly, Feige also indicated that other Marvel characters will eventually be recast, including its most iconic roles like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. He pointed to many other major film franchises that have done the same thing multiple times over. Amy Pascal and David Heyman are now searching for a new James Bond, Feige said, referring to the producers of Amazon's MGM's upcoming Bond film. David Cornsweet, the new Superman, he was awesome. There will always be the case. Feige acknowledged the stars who retired their original MC roles, like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, have made it difficult to imagine anyone else in their character's shoes, but it isn't an impossible task. I think it's hard for anybody to do what an actor has done such a great job, he said. How are they going to ever replace Sean Connery as James Bond, right? At least two legacy actors may still appear in the MCU as well. Asked about his plans for a follow-up to Marvel's 2024 blockbuster Deadpool & Wolverine with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, Feige, in typical fashion, made no definitive statement, but also did not close off any possibilities. I think there's more fun to be had with both of those characters, he said, but we'll see where. So there you guys have it. You know, we kind of have heard a lot of rumors that the next saga, the next era of Marvel is going to be focusing a lot on mutants, right? They purchased Fox not that long ago. We knew it was coming. And with all that being said, we knew post Secret Wars we're going to see some sort of reset, right? That's what Secret Wars was in the comics, right? The 2015 run, they literally reset everything, right? They didn't put out comics when 2015 Secret Wars comics were coming out. They stopped all other comics for a period of time, right? They really wanted to reset everything. And this is something very similar to that, right? They're not going to reset everything, but they are going to put it back to a way where everything works, right? And the X-Men, starting with that, you're obviously going to have to reboot the X-Men. There's no other way of putting it. That was kind of a given. I think what a lot of fans were interested in seeing was, what are they going to do with the Avengers? The classic Avengers characters like Tony, like Steve, their roles are iconic. Are we going to see those characters reset? And Kevin kind of answered for us. We eventually will, right? I mean, a perfect, story that I think a lot of fans are excited to see is Avengers versus X-Men, a full movie set to it, right? You can't really have X-Men without Cyclops, right? That doesn't really work that well. You can. There's been some instances in comics, but for the most part, Cyclops is the poster boy of the X-Men. In the same sense, you can't really have the Avengers without Steve Rogers, right? I mean, you can, but again, Steve Rogers is the poster boy of the Avengers. If you want a really cool, sellable Avengers versus X-Men, you've got to have a Steve Rogers and a Cyclops, right? And I think they're thinking more along those lines. Like, if we're going to reset the X-Men, you might just reset some of these other big name characters that are going to be fan favorites, right? I don't think they're going to reset all of them, right? Like Fantastic Four. They're not going to reset the Fantastic Four. They're just setting them up right now, right? Characters like Moon Knight, and they're getting ready to do a lot of like that mystical kind of stuff. Doctor Strange, I don't think they're going to reset any of those characters. It's going to be a pick and choose, but a lot of the characters that we see retired already, like Steve Rogers, Iron Man, potentially Hulk, right? Like those kind of characters, we can maybe assume some recast. And I think that's really exciting because it gives a lot more possibilities in the future.
Yeah, one thing that I think would be cool, and I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen at this point in time. But we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine, Chris Evans came back as a Human Torch. So it'd be cool if eventually at some point they teased like a Chris Evans being there in a multiversal fashion as a Captain America. But as far as this article goes, as far as what we're seeing here, he didn't say reboot like 10 times, but essentially that's kind of, it's up for interpretation how he's going to reset it, how this whole system's going to reset. Maybe they all go to their own new multiverse. I mean, there's a couple different ways they could do it. I'm not exactly sure how the Secret Wars ended in the comics, but again, they could deviate from that even. I mean, there's a couple different ways they could do some interesting things in this to reset it, but again, you got these huge actors, and to re-sign them is also really expensive, so you got to kind of shift off and get some newer ones, not necessarily cheap, but some newer blood in the actor realm. Even looking at as Tony Stark, I mean, that's Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark as far as pretty darn close to anyone is concerned, and it's kind of hard to see anyone else fulfill that role. But as he said, James Bond, he's got to be replaced too. He has been in the past. Even though it's such an iconic character, I mean, yeah.
I think the example that is obviously missing that he should have noted, Spider-Man. Spider-Man has been recast multiple times, right? And I think for the most part, fans enjoy each iteration, right? Fans will have their favorite, of course, but I think we can all appreciate both Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, right? And I think that's something that you can kind of expect with Iron Man and Captain America. We want to respect the legacy that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, all these characters that are eventually going to move on. We want to respect the legacies they left behind. And you can respect and honor that by putting a great effort forward to make sure when you recast, it's the best you can possibly put forward. And I think this is exciting. Like I said, this opens up a lot of new possibilities because we didn't really know what to expect with the rest of the MCU. We knew what to expect with the X-Men, but the rest was yet to be discovered. And I think this is really cool news. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments. Who you want to see recast, who you don't want to see recast down in the comments. You know, I want to see Captain America. He's one of my favorite comic characters. I'm really excited to see him. I would like to see him recast, and I'm excited that they're doing that. Anything else, Afton?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, with that, don't forget to hit that follow, download, share. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.